I talked to him about it. I asked him questions about it. I heard his side of the story, which no one has ever heard, which is the truth. And when the time is right, and that is not now, Tim will tell the truth of all of these past allegations when he needs to.
From beloved child star to outspoken advocate, Melissa Gilbert's life has been shaped by public admiration and private pain. Behind the bright smile millions knew from television were adoption secrets, family tragedy, and a lifelong struggle to build an identity beyond her most famous role. But what happens when childhood fame disappears while its emotional scars remain? After years of keeping painful truths hidden, Melissa began revealing the complicated reality behind her carefully crafted image.
Had taken his own life. That was a very deeply hidden secret from pretty much everybody in my life.
Her story exposes the personal cost of growing up in the spotlight and the courage it took to finally confront her past. Childhood secrets and adoption. Melissa Gilbert's story began in Los Angeles on May 8, 1964, but her earliest memories are shaped not by her birth family, but by the compelling world of Hollywood she was immediately thrust into. Placed for adoption within a day of her birth, she was welcomed by actor Paul Gilbert and actress Barbara Crane. From the very start, Melissa's life was entwined with show business, not as a distant observer, but as a participant in a famous lineage. Her maternal grandfather, Harry Crane, was the creator of The Honeymooners, grounding Melissa's roots deep in television history. Growing up, home and the entertainment world blurred together as she started working in commercials almost as soon as she could speak full sentences. One of her memorable early gigs was an Alpo dog food commercial alongside Lorne Greene.
Well, Alpo has meat byproducts and beef.
Dogs love it.
And all the nutrition dogs need.
This early entanglement of childhood and work set a tone where her personal life and public image were never separate. While many children her age were focused on playgrounds and schoolwork, Melissa faced the pressures of the camera lens from infancy, learning to perform before she fully understood childhood. Yet even as her career was emerging, a hidden truth within her family would cast a long shadow over her life. For years, Melissa was told that her adoptive father had died of a stroke, a version she accepted without question. That accepted story was shattered later when she learned the devastating reality. Her father had died by taking his life. The revelation hit her like a tidal wave, unsettling months where normal activities such as eating and sleeping became difficult. This was not just personal loss, but a loss veiled in secrecy, and the heavy silence around it deepened the wound. Her family life was already sort of complicated by divorce, her parents separating when she was 6, and then her mother remarried, which brought in new dynamics, new rules, and this blended household that looked steady but kinda hid deeper tensions. Publicly, Melissa looked like this cheerful child growing up in an iconic Hollywood family. Privately, she was dealing with adoption, with loss, and with that constant pressure, the relentless gaze of public attention. That bright, smiling image fans and media adored never actually showed the hard parts underneath. The girl behind the camera carried burdens few people would even guess at, shaped by these contradictions between fame and family secrets, and the weird mismatch between what she was supposed to be and what she felt. The tough truths of her upbringing would later come into full focus, but they were already quietly setting the tone for the woman Melissa was becoming. The silence about her father's death and the weight of family expectations planted seeds of confusion and pain, and they grew right along with her emerging career. At times, the gap between who she was and who the world expected her to be felt almost unbearable, even in the middle of everything. Still, the story that would end up defining her life wasn't finished yet. It was still unfolding, right there between the bright lights and the shadows of Hollywood. Those childhood complexities basically laid out the stage for a breakthrough moment, a turning point where an unknown girl from thousands of hopefuls rose to national fame and changed both her life and the way people saw the world around her. Growing up in the limelight would soon offer both refuge and cage, as she stepped into a role millions would come to love. Rising star in Little House. In late 1973, 9-year-old Melissa Gilbert auditioned for the role that would become synonymous with her name, Laura Ingalls Wilder in Little House on the Prairie. The competition was fierce, with roughly 500 girls vying for the part, yet Melissa's charm and talent won her the coveted role. The pilot aired as a television movie in March 1974, followed by a full series that September, launching her into the national spotlight. Michael Landon, already a television star from Bonanza, personally approved her casting and became more than a colleague. He shaped her into a mentor and father figure. Their close relationship on set anchored Melissa as she navigated the pressures of sudden fame. From 1974 to 1983, she appeared in nearly every episode, growing up on camera before millions of viewers. Her days were intense from the start. Filming often stretched 5 days a week in studios and on location in Southern California. Squeezing school into the legal minimum 3 hours daily allowed for child performers. While her peers worried about homework and recess, Melissa was carrying major scenes in one of NBC's most popular family dramas. As the show's popularity soared, so did the public's image of her. Michael Landon lovingly nicknamed her Half Pint, a term of endearment that stuck both on-screen and off. Audiences embraced her as the sweet, spirited prairie girl, and that innocent persona became deeply entrenched in people's minds. But that image came with unspoken burdens. Melissa later admitted that playing Laura,
from what I'm hearing from people, is that Little House on the Prairie is a reminder of when things were simpler for us.
felt like both an escape and a cage, kinda, at the same time. Fans, and even people on set, kept treating her not as an actress who was playing a part, but like she was the perfect character herself, and somehow expected that kindness would always show up, that wholesomeness and gratitude should come on command too. Living under that kind of close observation created a widening gap between the adored public figure and the private girl who was really wrestling with her own reality. The push and pull between performance and personhood stayed with her far longer than anyone noticed back then. By the series' end in 1983, Melissa wasn't just a child star anymore. She was this teenage icon, praised by critics as well as audiences, like all at once. She got a Golden Globe nomination in 1981, and she collected a bunch of Young Artist honors, but none of that could actually answer the deeper questions growing inside her. Despite fame and acclaim, she still couldn't untangle where Laura Ingalls stopped and where Melissa Gilbert started. This identity mess would follow her straight into adulthood, making it harder for her to find personal calm. Her success on Little House opened doors, yes, but it also built walls. It cast this long shadow over her changing life and work. The world's love for Laura on the Prairie sometimes felt like a tender grip that wouldn't release. And it shaped Melissa's path in ways that were both beautiful and confining, you know? As the girl who grew up in front of millions began to seek herself beyond the character, new challenges awaited her beyond the comforting yet confining world of Walnut Grove. Breaking away from the image. Transitioning from child star to adult actress is notoriously difficult, and for Melissa Gilbert, the battle was deeply personal. In the 1980s, she pushed to be seen as more than the young Laura Ingalls, moving into a different Hollywood scene that was crowded with edgy stars and sprawling parties. Her dating life connected her to the Brat Pack and musicians like Billy Idol, a world that seemed to promise freedom but often offered confusion and pressure. Melissa's drive was clear. She needed to prove her range and depth beyond the innocence of the prairie girl. She sought out roles that challenged her, darker, riskier characters that contrasted sharply with Laura's wholesome image. This ambition was part rebellion, part self-assertion, and deeply tied to her struggle for identity. At just 15, still known as America's Half Pint, she took on the demanding role of Helen Keller in The Miracle Worker on Broadway. The part required physical endurance and emotional intensity far beyond family television drama, pushing her into new artistic territory. For Melissa, this role was a test. Could she survive difficult material and step outside the safe world of Walnut Grove's nostalgia? She continued down this path, choosing television films that explored grim themes. In Choices of the Heart, she portrayed Jean Donovan, one of several American churchwomen indecently assaulted and slain in El Salvador, confronting a harrowing true story. In Blood Vows, she ventured into the dangerous world of mafia betrayal and violence. These were not casual casting decisions. These parts reflected a calculated effort to be regarded as an actress with complexity and depth. Yet escaping the grip of Laura Ingalls was harder than winning the part initially. Even as she led television series like Stand By Your Man and Sweet Justice in the early 1990s, the industry and public view remained stubbornly tied to her childhood role. Despite strong performances and new characters, Melissa struggled to shake the shadow cast by the Prairie Girl. This tether to her past had a growing emotional cost. In her 2009 memoir, Prairie Tale, Melissa revealed how trapped she still felt inside that image decades after the show ended. Public praise and recognition could not fill the emptiness caused by the gap between public expectation and personal reality. Her memoir was also a candid break from Hollywood illusion, exposing struggles with addiction, failed relationships, plastic surgery regrets, and insecurity amid the glittering facade of celebrity. This honesty dismantled the old myth of the sweet child star, replacing it with the portrait of a woman wrestling with pain, self-doubt, and the relentless search for worth. Melissa's fight to transcend Laura Ingalls became a central theme in her life, touching everything from career choices to her emotional health. The struggle to be seen and to see herself beyond that youthful role was as defining as the role itself. The path she chose was difficult, but it was hers. A journey marked by resilience, reinvention, and a refusal to be confined by the image audiences once loved. As Melissa's adult life unfolded, the battles she faced would take unexpected turns, challenging her to confront even darker truths within and without. Personal battles and addiction. Despite the fame and success Melissa Gilbert achieved as a child and young adult, she faced intense personal struggles that remained hidden from the public eye for many years. In her late 30s, under the weight of grief, family turmoil, and emotional fatigue, she turned to alcohol as a means of coping. What started as a way to help herself sleep spiraled into a dangerous dependency where she could consume as much as 2 bottles of wine a night. She also struggled with prescription medication during this period, another layer added to the complex battle she was fighting internally. One moment in particular marked a harsh turning point. She passed out drunk in her dog's bed while entertaining a guest, a humiliating event that shocked her into seeking help. This episode became a catalyst for change, pushing her into therapy and eventually Alcoholics Anonymous. By around 2004, Melissa had reached sobriety. But recovery did not magically erase the challenges she faced. Life continued to test her resilience. Financial troubles soon followed, beginning a difficult chapter as tax authorities claimed she owed more than $400,000 in back federal income taxes, a burden on top of years of emotional strain. Writing became an integral part of her healing process. In 2009, Melissa published her memoir, Prairie Tale, at age 45.
Melissa Gilbert grew up in front of us as Half Pint, or Laura Ingalls, of course, on TV. Now she's published her memoir, and in it reveals that. With me now to talk about her new book, Prairie Tale.
An unflinching account that tore down the polished image layered over decades. The book was more than just a retelling of events. It was a courageous act of honesty that laid bare her battles with addiction, failed relationships, self-esteem issues, and her disillusionment with Hollywood's flawless facade. The memoir showed a woman confronting this deep pain and insecurity right under the whole sweet girl persona, like it was there the entire time. Melissa's openness sort of gave voice to that tangled reality many former child stars have, a blend of public adoration and private turmoil. It cracked the nice illusion that celebrity, automatically shields someone from suffering. and it made it clear how human and also how breakable she was in a quiet way. In 2014, she pushed her work forward with two pretty different books, Daisy and Josephine, which is a children's story about a shy girl and her dog.
Hey, Extra, check out my first children's book, Daisy and Josephine by me.
Kind of mirrors the loneliness lingering in parts of Melissa's own childhood, but dressed up in a gentler, more delicate narrative. At the same time, My Prairie Cookbook mixed old-time recipes with behind-the-scenes recollections
Pumpkin pie, straight from My Prairie Cookbook. Was this inspired by Little House?
and those personal scrapbook photos from the Little House years, giving warmth and comfort while still letting through subtle thoughts about family and that feeling of belonging. Over the years, Melissa's public image moved again. She leaned into leadership roles, winning the Screen Actors Guild presidency in 2001 after a bitter contest. She served until 2005 and became one of the rare former child stars to actually wield real influence in Hollywood politics. She handled a union during strikes, plus those industry clashes and disputes. That job, in a sense, highlighted her grit, her precision, and her ability to manage conflict when everything is pressing in and you really can't let go. Still, the emotional price of her past and the constant pressures in the industry never fully let go of her grip. The back and forth between fame, personal pain, and the continued search for peace shaped not just her career, but almost every corner of her life. Her battles with addiction and grief turned into major chapters in this complicated story she finally had to meet head-on. And from the shadowy, difficult stretch, Melissa slowly built the base for reinvention, a new phase rooted in honesty, self-awareness, and hope. The scars of her personal battles intertwined with her romantic life, where love and loss would leave their own profound marks. Marriage, love, and loss. Melissa Gilbert's love life has been woven with both hope and hardship, reflecting the emotional roller coaster that often accompanied her public and private journeys. At age 23, she married actor Bo Brinkman, shortly after ending a high-profile engagement to Rob Lowe. This quick transition hinted at the emotional turbulence swirling beneath her surface. On May 1st, 1989, Melissa gave birth to their son, Dakota Paul Brinkman, during a time when she was still struggling with heavy drinking and emotional instability. The pressures of her identity crisis, motherhood, and coping mechanisms created a volatile mix that ultimately unraveled her marriage. Infidelity, substance issues, and violent conflicts marked the breakdown of this first union, which ended in 1994. Melissa later described those years not with nostalgia, but as chaotic and deeply self-destructive. The turbulence she endured shaped her understanding of relationships, trust, and her own emotional needs, lessons painfully learned through heartbreak. Yet, she moved forward, seeking a different kind of stability in her next chapter. In 1995, she married actor Bruce Boxleitner after a complicated courtship that involved unexpected twists, including discovering a broken engagement through his ex-wife. Later that year, they welcomed their son Michael Garrett Boxleitner, whom Melissa named in honor of Michael Landon, her mentor and father figure from Little House on the Prairie. This gesture reflected the deep emotional weight she placed on that relationship and her desire for a protective, loving home. However, old patterns persisted. Despite hopes for security and peace, Melissa admitted battling the same cycles of emotional dependency and drinking to cope. Her longing for rescue and stability masked ongoing loneliness. After 16 years together, the couple quietly separated in 2010 and finalized their divorce in 2011, closing a chapter she would later see as rooted more in fear than genuine peace. The dissolution of her second marriage opened the door to new possibilities but also brought fresh challenges. In 2012, Melissa, then 47, met Timothy Busfield at a Los Angeles bar, a meeting marked by calm and mutual understanding rather than drama or performance. Both had children from previous marriages and years of personal struggles, yet Their connection offered a different kind of steady energy. Their relationship quickly deepened, with Busfield proposing in late 2012 and their engagement confirmed in early 2013. They married on April 24, 2013, in a small private ceremony at a ranch in Santa Barbara. Melissa intentionally chose a red dress instead of traditional white, symbolizing experience, survival, and the chance to build something authentic and real. Together, they moved away from the Hollywood spotlight, first to Michigan and later to a rustic cabin in upstate New York. Their life together reflected a shared desire for simplicity, creativity, and a reprieve from the chaos of Melissa's earlier years. Their story embodied the hope for a peaceful, settled third act after decades of pain and public scrutiny. But as love promised a fresh start, the shadows of life's unpredictability were never far behind, reminding Melissa that transformation and loss often walk hand in hand. With these intimate and sometimes painful chapters behind her, Melissa's relationship with aging and self-acceptance would soon begin to take center stage. Aging and Hollywood's pressure. As Melissa Gilbert moved through her 40s, the pressure to maintain a youthful appearance intensified in ways few outside Hollywood could fully understand. Long before she spoke openly about growing older, she began altering her appearance to fit the industry's unforgiving standards. Soon after turning 18, she underwent rhinoplasty, hoping for a smoother, smaller nose that would photograph better. A change that led to additional surgeries when the first didn't heal as expected. That initial procedure opened the door to more cosmetic work, including breast implants, Botox, fillers, and laser treatments. For years, she sought to hold on to a fresh look, the kind casting directors and agents still demanded, even as she aged. But the more she tried to improve her appearance, the more she felt like a stranger in her own mirror, trapped by an endless cycle of maintenance driven by fear rather than self-love. By her 40s, Melissa felt the crushing weight of Hollywood's ageism, a culture where a woman's worth often boils down to dress size and the few lines she could squeak on camera. She spoke about being pressured, both overtly and subtly, to stay around a size 2 or 4 to remain competitive despite decades of experience. It was a relentless demand that ignored the natural changes of aging and the realities of a lifetime in front of the camera. Her 2011 divorce intensified the scrutiny. What had once been occasional upkeep transformed into routine, almost mechanical beauty regimens. Botox, fillers, and hair dye became everyday necessities. At some point, Melissa realized that the woman reflected back at her was less herself and more a construct born of Hollywood's fear of aging. That realization was painful, but necessary. In interviews around 2024 and 2025, Gilbert spoke candidly about rejecting the phrase anti-aging. To her, it suggested death, the opposite of what growing older means. She challenged the idea that wrinkles or gray hair are signs of failure, insisting that normal human aging had been unfairly stigmatized and turned into a shameful secret many women felt pressured to hide. Living in Los Angeles made this pressure constant and almost inescapable, like it was always there, even when she tried to look away. Melissa described carrying an invisible list in her mind, keeping track of every tiny thing. No gray roots, no visible lines on camera, no sagging skin, no weight gain. The whole experience crystallized her need to leave the city, to get away from the culture that kind of demanded she hide her true self and pretend natural aging wasn't happening. The break came around 2013, the same year she married Timothy Busfield and relocated away from Los Angeles. With distance came freedom. She cut her hair, stopped Botox, let go of fillers. In 2015, she publicly shared the decision to remove her breast implants because they no longer fit the life she wanted, and they were also causing health issues. Living first in rural Michigan and later at a restored 14-acre cabin upstate New York, Melissa found a calmer kind of peace. Away from Hollywood and its relentless watch, a lot of the cosmetic worries just faded down. The woman now looking back at her reflection was finally her own, embracing wrinkles, sunlines, and those small histories they told without rushing to erase them. Her day-to-day life shifted too, filled with gardening, cooking, and those quieter pleasures far from the red carpets. No longer chained to camera angles or social media standards, she started to value visible aging as proof of survival, know-how, and authenticity, like a radical switch from the Hollywood version of herself she had once been. The peace she found in living authentically sparked a new chapter, one where she aimed to uplift others walking through similar journeys. Reinvention and new beginnings. Melissa Gilbert's reinvention extended beyond personal acceptance to her professional and public lives as she embraced a new mission. More than 45 years after her Little House debut, she launched Modern Prairie, a lifestyle brand and community created specifically for women over 50. This shift marked a conscious departure from youth-obsessed Hollywood toward a space that celebrated mature women as visible, creative, and vibrant. Her audience mattered profoundly. Melissa no longer chased the approval of youth-driven industries. Instead, she spoke directly to women seasoned by life's challenges and changes, sharing openly about menopause, hot flashes, sagging skin, and the realities of aging bodies. On camera and in her communications, she wore little or no makeup, bringing authenticity to a demographic often ignored or pressured into invisibility. The brand grew out of Melissa's own simple routines, gardening, cooking, and daily life in the small cabin she and Busfield restored in the countryside. This grounded lifestyle stood in direct contrast to the Hollywood glamour she'd once known, emphasizing comfort, connection, and the messy beauty of real life. Around 2022 and 2023, Melissa's voice around aging became bolder and more confident. She described menopause and growing older not as losses, but as gifts that deepened her understanding of self and even enriched her marriage. Her authenticity resonated broadly, inspiring others to embrace their own journeys with less shame and more pride. Turning 60 in May 2024 was kinda a profound milestone. She said it was the most incredible year of her life, and she was proud of every line, scar, and opinion she earned along the way. The message wasn't subtle. Older women are not these faded echoes from their youth. They're still fully alive, easy to see, and creative beings. Her acting approach also shifted. Instead of trying to squeeze into younger versions of herself, she started leaning into age-appropriate roles that felt honestly radical in a youth-obsessed industry. In the mid-2020s, she starred in the off-Broadway play Still, and she played a woman in her 60s who's facing a love from decades earlier. For that, she pulled on her own long emotional path through marriages and divorces. You know the real stuff. Health struggles stayed tangled up in her story, though. They never really dimmed her spirit. After nearly 20 years of spinal pain, she went through major surgery in 2020, and later, she shared encouraging updates just weeks after the operation, like no big dramatic delay. And her resilience showed up again in a deeply personal moment in her early 60s, when she revealed she was cancer-free at age 62. That win also lit a spark for activism. Notably, in 2025, she partnered with the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network in honor of Michael Landon, her longtime mentor, who died young because of that disease. It felt like a full-circle moment, mixing the old with the new, pain with hope, sort of together at once. Melissa Gilbert's reinvention isn't only about survival. It's about thriving on purpose, turning past struggles into platforms for empowerment, and also inviting other people to do the same, even if their timeline is messy and imperfect. With the foundations of acceptance and new purpose laid, Melissa's life story would soon confront its most public and challenging trials yet. Recent trials and public defense. Melissa Gilbert's later years have been marked by challenges that tested both her resilience and public image. In early 2026, her husband Actor Timothy Busfield became the subject of serious child abuse allegations connected to his work on a television production. The accusations shocked many fans who viewed the couple as a symbol of stability after decades in the entertainment industry. When the case started getting national attention, Busfield denied the allegations and then pleaded not guilty. Melissa answered publicly, kind of in real time, staying close to her husband and saying she still had total faith in his innocence. In a television interview, she defended his character anyway, even though she was told to be careful or at least to slow down a bit, and her choice, almost immediately, triggered controversy. Some people called it pure loyalty in a rough moment. Others went the other way, saying she was too ready to support him, while the accusations were honestly this serious. The fallout didn't stay inside the courtroom either. Melissa described it like a storm that somehow touched nearly everything they had. Friendships and finances and even professional prospects too. It all felt upended. Business ventures and partnerships ran into uncertainty as the public stare grew louder and nonstop. She also admitted a tough truth about modern visibility. Even when a person is eventually cleared, the mere fact of accusations can still scar a reputation for a long time. At the same time, Melissa kept dealing with long-term health issues. Chronic neck and back pain, made worse by injuries over the years, meant ongoing treatment and rehabilitation, not something you just move past. Then more medical scares kept arriving, reminding her how fragile life really is, even when you're used to pushing through obstacles. Still, through the personal pressure and the public pressure, Melissa has stayed committed to talking openly about aging, health, and perseverance. Her situation isn't only about childhood fame or television success anymore. It's turned into something more like endurance, dealing with controversy, confusion, and physical hardship while continuing to move ahead. Under the shiny surface of Hollywood, there's a much more complicated reality, not defined by fame by itself, but by the determination to keep going when life gets at its hardest. And it doesn't really ask permission. Melissa Gilbert's journey reveals the hidden struggles behind public success, a powerful story of resilience, reinvention, and confronting painful truths. Her life reminds us that even amid fame and judgment, healing and authenticity are still possible. If you found her story compelling, please like and subscribe for more revealing journeys into the lives behind the headlines. And before you go, watch the next video appearing on your screen. Another unforgettable story is waiting to be uncovered.